Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Sky. Now, in a normal Pokemon game, when you boot up, you have a little introduction to the world before it asks whether you're a boy or a girl. However, Mystery Dungeon goes one step further and asks for a fucking dating profile. You have to fill out 10 questions and have the DS read your aura before you can actually start your game. I swear to God, Nintendo, you better not match me with any weirdos. So after answering everything, I'm apparently casual, leisurely, and carefree, with people naturally flocking to me. Oh, hang on. I seem to be reading a BuzzFeed quiz. So with the answers I gave, I have to play the entire game as a fanpy, which I'm honestly surprised is even an option. At this point in the games, there were 493 Pokemon to choose from, and I wouldn't exactly call the retarded baby cousin of Dumbo the most memorable of them. Nevertheless, my character washes up on shore one day with amnesia. Shortly after, I'm found by a helpful mudkip who reveals a dreadful truth. I am not human. I know, shocking, isn't it? Especially considering they forgot to tell me I was once human before this dramatic reveal. So I seem to have been transformed into a Pokemon because of reasons, and this Mudkip is going to help me. He's a bit needy and cowardly to the point of annoyance, but he says there's a lot of nasty people wandering around and I wouldn't mind a decent meat shield. After a short time, my partner confesses he wants to join the Exploration Guild but is too afraid, but with me acting as his newfound confidant, he finally gets the nerve to try and join, although I don't know what to expect and it might just be me. But the evil face on this tent, combined with the sunset fire pits, doesn't exactly make for the most friendly image. Of course, joining the guild is easy and we have to come up with a team name for ourselves. Naturally, as someone with a rather higher than average intelligence, I of course came up with the best name possible for our troop. Is the name HIV positive okay? Yeah, damn right it is. And we're introduced to the guild missions. The basic gist is that you go to dungeons and wander around until you find your objective point. And I use the phrase wander around in very heavy terms because that's all there is to do. Each dungeon is randomly generated. And now let me take the time to educate you as to why randomly generated dungeons are shit. In a good dungeon, say one that was scripted and mapped out with clever design like in Zelda, you have puzzles, treasure to find, and monster fights potentially made more interesting by the set pieces those fights take place on. Because of how random generation works, you can't have any of these. Like sharing a biscuit tin with a fat person, the experience feels very empty. Treasure you find is usually something you can buy, or more likely, something you don't want to buy. Puzzles are non-existent because the nature of random generations would force you to play it multiple times, and all fights take place on the same set piece. Every single dungeon you walk through has the same algorithm for creation. Randomly sized rooms with small, one tile wide paths to walk between each one with no variation other than graphics. What's that? The floor is green now? Oh, Nintendo, you are spoiling me. None of them have anything interesting to find like landmarks or new tools. The only thing that really changes are the enemies you encounter, but they are so annoying. Seriously, I usually have to pay $200 up front for something that sucks this hard. The regular Pokemon games have slowly refined their battle mechanics over time. The first generation was broken, but Generation 2 made massive improvements and pretty much balanced everything. Explorers of Sky is also the second generation of Mystery Dungeon games, but the combat here is fucking horrible. Certain moves just make the entire game a total drag. As an example, you got moves like Stun Spore, Sleep Powder, or Constrict that completely stop your character from moving. You can't walk or attack in this state, and you can't swap out your party like usual Pokemon games, you just have to wait until the effect passes. Of course, there are berries that can heal sleep and paralysis, but fuck you! You can't use items in this state either! I should also say that unlike normal Pokemon games, status problems can stack, so it's completely possible to be asleep, paralyzed, and poisoned at the same time. All these status problems and I still don't qualify for a disabled parking badge. And because this is grid-based dungeon crawling rather than traditional turn-based combat, things like running away from fights are more inconvenient than they're worth because every game piece moves at the same speed and every enemy on screen has to take one turn for attacking. Saying this is slow is an understatement. Evolution has created new species faster than this battle system. It's especially hard to develop tactics when your partner Pokemon is with you at all times. You only ever have direct control over your main character and your partner does whatever they want. You have a slight command system, but they're all incredibly situational, so enjoy those tough tits because if your partner dies, it's game over. So that's basically all the gameplay is. Go to dungeon, do side quests in that dungeon, unlock more dungeons, and rinse repeat. By the halfway point, I was made to clear dungeons that were 20 floors deep. It's all the same! There's also this occasional random minigame where I had to guess what a Pokemon was by looking at its footprint, but the fuck kind of person would enjoy this? I know there's some people out there that have foot fetishes, but it takes one dedicated pervert to get turned on by a skarmory. But if the dungeons are too draining, you can of course have the story to motivate you, right? Nope. There is way too much dialogue here. You go something like 30 minutes at a time just reading with the most basic level playability. You could argue and call it akin to a visual novel, but the story here was designed for people ages 3 and up, and even then, I would call that a stretch. There was one scene where me and Mudkip walked up to a waterfall that was supposed to hide some kind of secret, but we find nothing. I was hoping for some kind of puzzle, but nope. Fanpy has psychic powers for some reason. I touched the waterfall and had a premonition that I had to jump into it. Oh wait, I seem to be having a psychic vision as well. Yes, it's showing me the past. It's telling me the writers of this game weren't giving a shit. There's also these special chapters where you can play as one of the side characters, but they're all the same. The first one I got to play as Bidoof, so I didn't care to finish it. It had me exploring a cave that was supposed to be a secret from everyone else in the world, despite the fact there were 3 Kecleon merchants in there. Also, there's a glitch in the special chapters that let me access item storage from the main game, so even though this Bidoof chapter is technically a prequel, I still have access to my overpowered items from Fanpy's story. Get me 6 rare candies and 2 dozen oysters, I'm feeling frisky! So, is there anything good about this game? Nah, there really isn't. Gameplay is monotonous, story is lazy, music is droning, although I will give them this. If this really was a dating site, it is decently accurate. Describing me as someone who looks like the Elephant Man isn't too far from the truth.